And anticipation is building here at Buckingham Palace with less than 2 days to go before Charles is crowned king. Camilla, Saturday will cement a mighty transformation from world's most hated second women to Queen of the United Kingdom.
I'm doing what my mother taught me. Stay firm, do your duty, and uphold the rules. She may be gone, but I am still here. You don't have to like me, but you can't ignore me. Because in this royal family, there is still someone who knows what must be done, and who must rise to do it.
Princess Anne has finally had enough. She is done keeping the secret. Actually, it's a revelation that would shake the monarchy to its core. In a tense private confrontation at Balmoral, she stood up, looked King Charles straight in the eye and said, "This has to stop." The secret she exposed was so explosive that it has shaken the royal family to its very foundation. This secret, after it was revealed, made Camilla drop down in tears in front of the whole family. From hidden deals and long-buried Diana files to Queen Camilla's quiet grip on power behind the scenes, Princess Anne is ready to expose Camilla on who she truly is. But what exactly could Anne have said that would cause a turmoil? Stay with us, because what happens next could change everything. When Princess Anne refused to stay quiet. The British royals have arrived at Balmoral Castle in Scotland for their annual summer holiday. King Charles arrived a week ago and was greeted by an official welcome. He was later joined by his wife, Queen Camilla, who had previously accompanied him for a ceremony to present a new color, the Ballater color, to the royal guard. The royal family was supposed to have a calm retreat, off the face of the cameras and headlines, but what was brewing beneath the surface was something that would make one's skin go pale in an instant. The walls of the castle, which had seen many royal traditions, now bore witness to a truth that couldn't be ignored. Princess Anne, known for her stiff posture, sharp eyes, and unmatched devotion to royal tradition, did something no one thought could come from her. She had drawn a line across the monarchy without ever raising her voice. She opened her lips a bit to speak a word, but it felt like a two-edged sword striking with precise direction. In a room filled with King Charles, Queen Camilla, and several senior advisors, Charles has always been the one to address the family. But this time, it was different. Princess Anne stood, not out of tradition, but out of pure conviction. When she finally spoke, her words were sharp, measured, and carried an incredible weight. She said, "I have held my tongue for too long. Enough is enough." The room felt the terror as her statement echoed through the walls of the castle. What followed was absolute silence. No one spoke, but all gasped. Their stunned faces and tensions felt like a sharp knife at the edge of one's neck. No one dared to interrupt her as she spoke with great authority and concern for the monarchy's future. Not King Charles, not Queen Camilla, not even the seasoned aides, which are trained to handle the most difficult situations within the royal family, could do anything in this situation. For years, Anne had been seen as the unshakable pillar of the family, always steadfast and silent. But in that moment, she crossed a line that had never been crossed before. She locked eyes with Queen Camilla as she openly spoke about years of suppressed frustrations. Anne was not happy about something, and somehow, Camilla was the only one who could sense the anger in Anne's eyes. Anne criticized decisions that were made without consulting key family members. She voiced her concerns about titles being handed out based on political considerations rather than tradition or merit. Most importantly, she expressed how deeply unsettling it was to see Queen Camilla's growing influence quietly pushing other family members to the sidelines, leaving them feeling ignored and powerless. Anne's statement was not driven by personal feelings, even though Camilla had once taken her boyfriend. Nor was her revelation about personal conflicts or old grievances. Instead, It focused on something far more serious, a secret agreement that quietly reshaped the future of the monarchy. The public had no idea this arrangement existed. Yet for Anne, it was impossible to ignore. She saw it as more than just a practical solution to a crisis. To her, it signaled a shift that would permanently alter the royal family's future. In her eyes, the crown was no longer something passed down with dignity or earned through lifelong dedication. Instead, it had become something negotiated behind closed doors. What Anne revealed next took things even further. She disclosed something that left everyone stunned. Continue watching to find out. The family showdown in Balmoral. What was meant to be a simple summer gathering quickly transformed into a pivotal moment of reckoning for the royal family. Sources close to the family revealed that King Charles sat silently, his head bowed, carefully absorbing every word that Anne delivered. Queen Camilla maintained a composed expression, but her eyes betrayed the emotions she struggled to conceal. She was very much afraid. Her hands were visibly shaking. This was not an emotional outburst from Anne. It was a calculated and deliberate statement. Her statement was, indeed, a clear declaration that she was no longer willing to act mute while watching the monarchy evolve into something she could neither recognize nor respect. The physical walls of Balmoral Castle stood untouched, but something far more significant within the royal family fractured that day. The long-maintained illusion of peace and unity was broken. From that moment on, the atmosphere within the palace was forever changed. What followed was even more shocking. Her statement continued with a more surprising fact and allegations towards Queen Camilla. It was revealed that the late Queen Elizabeth herself had held serious doubts about Camilla's influence and role within the monarchy. To support this claim, Anne presented undeniable proof that left no room for doubt. What Anne revealed next was much bigger than what anyone thought. What Queen Elizabeth really thought of Camilla as queen. You know how the world remembers Queen Elizabeth's public blessing of Camilla as queen consort during her Platinum Jubilee message? Well, what most people don't know is what she said in private. And the interesting part? Princess Anne was one of the few who actually heard it. In the days after that intense moment at Balmoral, Princess Anne sat down with two senior aides and shared something pretty shocking. She revealed conversations she'd had with the Queen in her final months. According to Anne, the Queen never truly wanted Camilla to be queen. In private, she saw Camilla's position on the throne as more of a reluctant compromise, not because she trusted her, but because it was what needed to happen. Apparently, the Queen was very clear with Anne. She reportedly told her that she believed Kate was the one who truly embodied the future of the crown. It wasn't about personal feelings, it was about the legacy of the monarchy. Sources say the Queen had mentioned multiple times that she preferred Kate to be the future face of the royal family. But the pressure to publicly support Camilla was huge. Political pressure, family pressure, and even public fatigue after all the scandals over the years. Anne called it a deal made in the shadow of the Jubilee. The Queen didn't want to make this deal, but she felt she had no choice. Now, with Camilla sitting on the throne, Anne believes that the choice is being manipulated and misrepresented. It was never supposed to be like this. In that moment at Balmoral Castle, Anne reportedly told Charles, "You've turned a temporary pardon into a permanent crown." That hit deep, and it brought up something that many feared was buried with the Queen: the idea that the throne on which Camilla sits might never have belonged to her. And if that's true, then the path to her title gets even murkier, especially when you consider what Charles may have traded to secure it. Just when the tension seemed to settle, Anne dropped a new revelation that would rock the royal family to its core. Camilla was never prepared for this secret to be revealed. Behind closed doors, the political bargain that made Camilla queen. It wasn't love that solidified Camilla's position as queen. It was leverage. Royal insiders who have stayed quiet for years are now talking about a deal that was made in secret, and it's one that even shocked the seasoned palace staff. Princess Anne recently dropped a major bombshell about a private agreement that stunned everyone, and it's one that explains a lot of what's happened over the years. Apparently, during the height of the Prince Andrew scandal, Charles made a secret promise to his mother, Queen Elizabeth. This was when everything was falling apart. The Epstein affair had exploded, and Prince Andrew was completely toxic in the public eye. The royal family's reputation was on the brink of collapse, and Charles knew they needed to act fast. But Camilla saw an opportunity in the chaos. The Queen, still hesitant about making Camilla Queen consort, was being pressured from all sides. Charles, according to sources, allegedly offered a solution. He would publicly remove Andrew from the royal fold, strip him of his titles, and distance himself permanently if Camilla were granted the queen consort status. It wasn't a formal, written agreement. It was more of a quiet, personal understanding. This was, as one source close to Anne put it, a case of fix the scandal and she gets the crown. It wasn't about tradition or royal heritage. It was about political maneuvering. Anne, of course, found this deeply offensive. To her, it wasn't just about the arrangement itself, but about how it was handled. "You traded one crisis for another," Anne reportedly told Charles, and in doing so, she felt he had made Camilla's crown a crown of compromise. Now, Camilla's supporters argue that she stepped up during a time of royal chaos and brought stability. Some people believe she helped steady the ship when the monarchy was teetering. But Anne sees it differently. To her, it wasn't about stability, it was strategic survival. Plain and simple. And the cost of that survival was the erosion of everything that had made the monarchy what it was, tradition. But here's where it gets even more surprising. The negotiations didn't end with Camilla herself. No, she wasn't just aiming for the title. She pushed for something else next that crossed a serious line, something that no royal should ever have touched. And Anne wasn't about to stay silent about it. She knew that this wasn't just a royal matter. It was about the integrity of the monarchy itself, and she wasn't going to let things go unchecked. Camilla had always known that Anne did not like her. But what she did not realize, until it was too late, was just how deep that disdain ran. The quiet competition. Behind the scenes of the royal family, there's a rivalry that's been quietly simmering for years, the rivalry between Camilla and Kate Middleton. While both women share a title, they couldn't be more different in how they're perceived by the public and their roles within the monarchy. Kate Middleton, the future queen consort, has earned the public's love and respect effortlessly. She represents the future of the monarchy with grace, dignity, and a quiet, unwavering sense of duty. Amid personal health struggles, she's carried herself with resilience and has become the people's princess, someone who embodies the very best of what the monarchy stands for. Her popularity continues to rise, and polls show her as the most beloved royal after the late Queen Elizabeth II. Camilla, on the other hand, remains a more polarizing figure. Though she's now queen, she has never truly shaken off the shadow of her past. Her affair with Prince Charles during his marriage to Princess Diana has left a mark on how many see her. Despite her efforts to rehabilitate her image, many still associate her with scandal. and she's never quite managed to gain the public's wholehearted acceptance. For many, Camilla is seen as a compromise, not the natural queen figure that many hoped for. Anne has been quoted as saying that if there is a North Star in the institution, it is Kate, not Camilla. This could signal a shift in internal support for the monarchy, where Anne, a trusted royal figure, is backing Kate as the next figurehead rather than Camilla. Anne's support for Kate could further widen the gap between Kate and Camilla, especially as the monarchy moves forward. Given Anne's stature and her decades of experience within the royal family, her backing is a strong endorsement of Kate's future role. What makes this rivalry even more pointed is the subtle but telling words of Queen Elizabeth, who is said to have expressed her view that Kate Middleton truly embodies the future of the monarchy. What followed was even more shocking, a revelation of the changing monarchy that no one saw coming. Princess Anne's warnings about the changing monarchy. According to Princess Anne, Camilla's becoming queen did not bring about the peace that was needed. Instead, it was a constant reminder of the secret arrangement that allowed her to ascend to the throne. Anne was not in line with most of Camilla's actions and commands. An example was when Camilla made an effort to secure a title for her son, Tom Parker Bowles. Anne found this an insult to the royal family, to the royal bloodline. Anne found this request a stain. Camilla did not announce it publicly or arrange any formal meeting to hammer on the topic, but she subtly hinted at the idea. She had hoped it would slip through unnoticed. For Anne, the crown was not a costume you wore. It was a blood-bound responsibility, a legacy handed down, not borrowed. And while Charles, ever the diplomat, may have softened the lines between tradition and modernity, Anne saw no such luxury, especially not with someone like Camilla, whose history with the royal family was already steeped in controversy. During an interview on the Newsagents podcast in 2023, Tom was asked, "You call King Charles your stepdad and pause before saying, 'The Queen, what do you become?' To which Tom replied, 'I become nothing. There would be a revolution if they started handing them out to people like me. Why would I expect a title?'" Tom wasn't of royal blood. Although he was raised close to royalty, he was not of royal descent. Even Prince Andrew had to go all out to keep his daughter's princess titles. Camilla sought to include her eldest son, Tom, in royal matters, but Anne immediately saw through her. In Anne's view, royal titles should be reserved for those with royal blood running through their veins or those who earned them through dedicated service. It should never be based on personal relationships, as in the case of King Charles as the stepfather and Tom as the stepson. If Tom was granted a title, even a minor one, Anne believed it would violate the principles that had preserved the monarchy for generations. Princess Anne wasn't just upset about Camilla wearing the crown. That wasn't the real issue. For Anne, it was about crossing a line. It was like Camilla was lowering the standards of what royalty should represent. She thought that if the royal family started bending the rules, it would change everything. To Anne, the monarchy wasn't just about titles. It was about tradition, duty, and respect for history. The title handling wasn't even the biggest concern. What really had Anne worried was this subtle shift in power that was happening behind closed doors. Like over time, she started noticing that decisions were being made in a way that didn't feel right. Conversations that used to be open were now more controlled. People were becoming cautious about what they said. It was like the freedom of expression within the family was being restricted. And then, she saw how King Charles was changing. He used to be seen as fair, compassionate, and someone who focused on family values. But lately, it felt like he was more focused on how the monarchy looked to the public. Anne started thinking that it wasn't just the pressures of being king. She suspected Camilla was influencing him behind the scenes. What really bothered Anne was the people Charles was now surrounding himself with. These people were Camilla's loyal subjects, personal assistants, event planners, and even people in charge of communications. Those appointments were coming from Camilla, not Charles. Anne wasn't jealous. She was just concerned. The monarchy had always been built on trust and tradition, but now it felt like it was becoming more like a business, where influence and loyalty mattered more than heritage. Anne believed Charles should be the one holding on to the legacy, not letting it get lost in all the political maneuvering. Camilla was also a central figure in the complex relationship between Charles and his son Harry. According to sources close to Buckingham, the Queen Consort is the main opponent of family reconciliation. She has done everything possible to keep Archie and Lilibet away from the royal environment, they say. The book Spare was a turning point between Harry and Camilla. In the book, Harry describes Camilla as the evil stepmother, accusing her of manipulating and sacrificing relationships to protect her image. Since then, Camilla has exercised strict control over any approach between the king and the Sussexes, reinforcing the distance. However, the real bombshell came when Anne revealed something much more explosive. The Quiet Reckoning. Princess Anne's stand against the changing monarchy. The thing is, Anne had been watching for years, watching as Camilla, the former mistress turned queen consort, gradually shifted power dynamics inside Buckingham Palace. It started small. Charity focuses here, seating order there. But to Anne, it was clear Camilla was not just fulfilling a role. She was reshaping it, bit by bit. According to media reports, most of Queen Elizabeth's $110 million jewelry collection was passed down to Princess Charlotte, with a smaller portion given to Princess Anne. While royal family members do not technically own the jewels, they are allowed to wear them at important events, as is customary. However, Camilla reportedly ordered a ban on royal women wearing crowns, seemingly in an attempt to stand out. This decision is notable because when Camilla remarried into the royal family, she had no jewelry of her own, as she wasn't entitled to wear any royal jewels at the time. Many still view Diana as the rightful Princess of Wales, a sentiment even shared by Princess Anne, who had always maintained a distant, often critical, view of her former rival. On the day of Camilla's coronation, Princess Anne made a bold statement by defiantly wearing a luxurious crown. Anne was particularly hurt when she found out that important letters and documents from Princess Diana were disappearing or being altered. Some of Diana's most personal thoughts and reflections, things that mattered deeply to the royal family, were suddenly harder to access. Anne suspected that Camilla had something to do with it. Not directly, maybe, but enough to influence what was happening. Anne felt like they were trying to erase Diana's voice from history. By doing that, it would make it easier to change the public perception of Camilla and rewrite the past. Anne couldn't just sit back and watch that happen. To her, it felt wrong, especially because the royal family was supposed to represent dignity and fairness. Anne even overheard palace staff, people who had been there for decades, talking about how things were changing. Long-standing ladies-in-waiting were being replaced with queen's companions, and rules that had always been respected were being bent to fit new priorities. It didn't feel like just a modernization. It felt like manipulation. Anne was terrified that once these changes were made, there'd be no going back. So, while they were all at Balmoral, Anne decided enough was enough. She could no longer stay silent. She'd kept her mouth shut for so long, but now it was time to stop pretending. She couldn't keep protecting the lies just to keep the peace. It wasn't about her anymore. She needed to speak out, even if it meant taking a big risk. There was nothing to gain for her personally, but for the sake of the monarchy, she knew she had to do it. When she walked out of the room after speaking, the atmosphere shifted completely. She knew things would never be the same. People were avoiding eye contact, turning their heads. But everyone had heard her, and no one would ever forget what she said. Camilla knew Anne didn't have a fondness for her, but her words kept on echoing within her. A senior aide who claimed he sat down beside her noticed a little teardrop down from her cheeks. While Princess Anne already exposed some truths, the bigger question remains: what happens next? If you found this story as revealing as we did, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more royal revelations.